Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, and today we are talking about when the peppers just won't pepper, the relationship between local land and local weather, and it's seed saving season, so let's do it. Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday. I am standing out in what is approximately 1,000 degrees to remind you that it is Tilth Tuesday. Every Tuesday of this year will be brought to you by our friends at Tilth Soil. If you're looking for compost or plant propagation mix, check out tilthsoil.com. Link will be in the show notes. Also check out this 12-foot tall sunflower. That'll come up later. All right, happy Tuesday, family. I hope everyone is having a reasonably good week so far. It's not been too many days in it. I think Monday and Tuesday is it. But of course, if not, you still have several days to get back on track, finish strong, and all that good stuff. Not a ton to report on my end. In this current heat wave we're having, it's really just a lot of keeping stuff alive, it feels like, and doing what little we can to kind of progress the season. But we are a little on the desperate side in terms of needing rain right now, especially with the heat and warm breezes we've been having. Not that the garden is doing terribly. It's just a little hangry, or whatever the version of that would be for water. Thirstry. No, I don't think it works. Thirstrated. That's probably it. Hey, while I have you, don't forget that your 20-second clip challenge this week is to show us what the fall garden preparations look like, or those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, perhaps you can just show us what the spring prep is looking like. You can send that to farmermike@no-tillgrowers.com. Always so cool to see your gardens, big or small. We love that. Thank you. All right. So I was watching this mini-series documentary on Hurricane Katrina. I think it's on Hulu. And for those of you in other countries who don't know, or those of you who were too young to remember Katrina, or perhaps not born, Katrina was a giant hurricane that hit a city, in this case New Orleans, that was not at all prepared to handle the storm surge, the wind, the evacuation, any of it. It happened 20 years ago at the end of this month in 2005, and it was absolutely devastating. I remember it vividly, watching the news every day that week, just stunned. The flooding, the aftermath, which now after the documentary, I remember all the false narratives and poor emergency plan and all that stuff as well. At the time, I was a big runner. I ran like every day. And I even recall solemnly running in the rain of the warm tropical depression that Katrina turned into as it passed over Louisville later that week. And just thinking about what all the people were going through down there as I ran through the streets and how surreal all that felt. But anyway, in the very first episode of that documentary, they talk about how one of the elements of the sort of perfect storm that led to Katrina being so incredibly devastating was the loss of around 60 to 80% of the wetlands around New Orleans, a couple thousand square miles, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. And that's just acreage that had been lost over the preceding century. Millions of trees dying off, largely caused by, stop me if you've heard this one before, the oil and gas industry. Now, they are not the only offenders. Leveeing, building levees, and sediment and water diversion have all, also had impacts in that, but thousands of acres had been and have been affected by those activities. So basically, this giant natural barrier that New Orleans and frankly many other areas along the coast once had, that would not only slow heavy storm surges, but also slow the winds down of hurricanes, had been slowly dismantled and killed. I've actually mentioned these wetlands before, recently actually, when I talked about large-scale restoration projects, because in fact, just recently, a massive, extensively studied and well-planned out restoration project that Louisiana had been working on for years to restore some of those wetlands was canceled by the governor there to be theoretically replaced by a smaller project, which will probably never come to pass because the years of work it took to study this original project was a lot. So we await the next Katrina to save a few dollars. That's smart. But anyway, I have talked about the need not only as growers, but as citizens to recognize the potential in natural systems to mitigate extreme weather, and thus one of the important reasons to embrace ecological restoration. Or conversely, as was in the case of Katrina, doing nothing is a great way to exacerbate a giant storm like that. That isn't, of course, the only example of ecological degradation having a measurable impact on extreme weather. In the 1930s, the Dust Bowl in the West, where millions of acres of native prairie were plowed right before an extreme drought, According to a 2020 article published in the journal Nature, quote, fueled stronger and more frequent heat waves through greater evaporative drying in the warmer months, and quote, effectively, when you have a bunch of bare soil out west, the direction where most of the weather comes from here, there are repercussions out here in the Midwest and East Coast. So it may have been a hot summer anyway, but it was made significantly worse by not having any giant prairies to help cool off the incoming weather. When you cut down large forests or plow up large prairies, hydrological patterns change. In the Amazon, for instance, where deforestation of the rainforest has become a significant issue, studies are seeing a direct impact on Brazil in terms of heat stress, drought, and wildfires. The effect can be seen on a small scale too. For instance, just go outside and put your hand on some bare soil and during the day, one of these hot days, and then put your hand on some grass or into a shrub or something and just feel how much hotter the bare soil is than the plants. Like I always say, I don't think the living pathways are for everyone. I don't. It's a whole complicated thing. But in terms of growing summer lettuce, I believe they help by providing a nice, cool microclimate all around my plants. It's been in the 90s for most of the last month, and our lettuce continues to roll. So anyway, plants rule, and then we need more of them everywhere. That's really all I'm saying. We need more large-scale restoration projects and more people to recognize the power that natural systems have to mitigate extreme weather events, or conversely, horrifyingly, the power that poor land management has to accelerate and amplify those extreme weather events. Like, it feels weird to say this sober, but it's all connected, man. What say you? What small or large-scale effects have you seen from poor land management changes around you, or possibly good land management changes around you or in your state? I'd love to hear. Otherwise, up next, let's get peppering. BRB.
Brian here at Snowflake Farm. Here's your big old failure. There's a row of zucchini. Looks like it was planted months ago, but it wasn't. It was planted at the same time as this row of yellow squash. Won't be planting that variety again.
Farmer Claire Coleman here from the Winter Growers Podcast. Did you know that I also founded Real Farmer Care, a nonprofit that supports farmer well-being? From my own experiences farming, I knew firsthand that this type of support was missing from ag, so I decided to do something about it. As of today, there are over 500 farmer recipients of a $100 self-care award, with more applying daily. If you'd like to help, each $100 donated supports one new farmer. Visit realfarmercare.com to donate and learn more. Again, that's realfarmercare.com.
If you, the listener, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Austin at Vital Root Farm, who writes, quote, "Hey Jesse, my peppers won't pepper. This is my second year running a system in Zone 3A where I overwinter chickens in my hoop house with access to a coop set beside the house, and then grow peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and eggplant in the summer in the same space, chickens removed, of course. In year one, everything was amazing with this system. Everything produced bountifully. Now, in year two, things are a little different. The tomatoes are doing quite well. Again, the cucumbers, aside from some tarnish plant bug issues, are also doing similarly to last year. However, the peppers aren't doing very well. The plants, for the most part, look healthy, but they're not really taking off like they did last year. And most importantly, I have a few blossoms, and those that do form seem to sort of shrivel and not last very long. Could this be because there is too much nitrogen from the chickens and not enough phosphorus/potassium, or an imbalance of the three? Something else, like a water irrigation issue? Is there anything I can do in mid-July to turn these things around? Appreciate you and any advice you can provide. Thanks." End quote. All right, thanks. This is a great question here, Austin. Just so listeners know, I did answer this question when it first came in, because Patreon members, if you put an alarm bell in there, as Austin did, the little alarm emoji, I will know that it's an emergency, and I will tend to it as quickly as I can. But like I said then, my first impulse is to say that, especially if the plants look okay or look healthy, for whatever reason, in that area, the nitrogen from chickens may have gotten a little excessive, as you sort of allude to here, Austin. You know, originally I would have guessed that's where Austin kept the coop, but Austin said the coop was kept beside the greenhouse. Either way, that is where my brain went immediately, because depending on the spacing, the effect of the nitrogen on tomatoes, for instance, or the cucumbers may be different from the peppers if, for instance, the tomatoes are planted more closely together and trellised to, for instance, like a double leader, but the peppers are just, they have maybe more space and aren't is pruned as intensively. So in other words, it's possible the tomatoes aren't showing the signs of the excess of nitrogen as much because they just need more nitrogen per plant to satisfy both of those stems. Another thing that can be happening is flower drop from a lack of pollination. So it could be a simple lack of bugs, though that would probably affect the other plants as well. It could also be the heat. If the peppers do not get proper ventilation, they can drop their flowers, though if you also have tomatoes there, again, I would be surprised to hear that the peppers are not handling the heat, but the tomatoes are. Either way, if they just happen to be in the hottest part of the tunnel, these peppers, with not the best ventilation, like near an end wall or in the middle of the tunnel or something, that could lead to an issue with the blossom drop. Water is also a possibility, like you suggested here. Is it possible that the pepper beds are not getting the water delivery they need for some reason? Maybe the irrigation lines are clogged, or water is only working on one of them, causing uneven watering. Nutrient balances are also a possibility. This could be most easily and most accurately confirmed through a SAP analysis sent into a soil testing lab. They would likely offer a foliar application to help in the immediate, potentially with a better long-term soil amendment recommendation. Those are my initial thoughts. There could be some other physiological things, and certain diseases can cause flower drop, but the likelihood seems low on those fronts because I think you would notice other things. You may also find that the plants have leveled out their nitrogen a bit through vegetative growth by this point, right? Because green leaves use a lot of nitrogen. So once they've done that, then they could probably get back to, their production. Sometimes they're just like happy and not ready to have kids yet. So, I respect that. Anyway, commenters, let us know what you all think is going on here in the comments section. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's seed saving season. Be right back.
Hey, this is Tank from Thorny Acres Farms in Connecticut. Weeds have been out of control this year. This was onions and garlic, sweet potato patch, some overgrown tomatoes. This is my 3 sisters' garden, 4 sisters if you count the weeds. But I did manage to get a little bit of a harvest, some carrots, onions, and a rotten tomato.
Today's episode is brought to you by Farmhand. We know it's peak season, you're busy, but the messages you send now are what drive renewals later. That's why Farmhand is offering free instant access to their farmer-built newsletter builder. No demos, no setup fees, just drop your logo, upload your list, and start sending farm-branded emails that boost sales, engage members, and save you hours each week. Get free access today at farmhand.partners/no-till. That's farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show. All right, so before I jump into this, a quick reminder that the new season of Dan Brisebois' podcast, The Seed Farmer, is going on now. So make sure to subscribe to that wherever you get your podcast. Now, for the final segment of the day, I thought I would talk about what seeds I'm saving for next season because, well, 'tis the season. I say that because this is typically the time for when not only have the plants we save seed from mostly senesced at this point, but the seeds are nice and dry and we can easily crack any pod open and separate the seeds and the chaff with a fan. That said, there are some seeds we save earlier and some we save later, like popcorn, for instance, is not quite done yet. We'll often save that seed. But anyway, here are some of the seeds we are saving now. First is garlic. We always save our garlic seed from the year before. I honestly, unless you have a line on some really cheap and well-performing garlic, it's hard for me to see a way to make garlic profitable or worth it if you buy new seed every year. And by seed, obviously, I mean cloves. Seed garlic is often running like $20 to $25 a pound or more. So it just, the price adds up. Usually what happens is the first year you buy enough to, get enough garlic to sell some that you grew and also grow as much as you would want to replant the next year. And then that's when you sort of start to build up your garlic seed. Sometimes you don't even sell any that first year. You just grow it to grow up the amount that you have. If you are short on space, though, it may actually pencil out to buy new garlic every year, though. So, you would have to do that penciling. We also save okra seed. Now, it has only rained like 1/4 of an inch since the okra went into the ground or thereabouts, and I whimsically somewhat planted the teff beneath it because I just can't be normal. But I look forward to saving seed from the plants that do best because I'd like to breed okra that is better able to tolerate that sort of competition. Another one we are saving this year is our sweet onion seed. This is kind of a new one for me. We had some sweet onions last year, Candy, an F1 hybrid notably, that did well and lasted the entire winter. So we decided this year to pop those into the ground. in one of our tunnels where it could stay dry. We did that this spring to save the seed and see if we could start breeding out a sweet onion that might do better, even better in our climate. The one fun thing about F1 hybrids is you don't always know what you're going to get, but you will get like a wide range of genetics in that crop. So we're excited to just see what comes out. Also, we're saving the topper popper peppers I've been working on for a few years, and some of you will remember I've talked about these before, which are starting to become basically tiny versions of bullhorns with a bit of a kick. Very sweet flesh, like maybe like a Carmen pepper, but with like a very mild heat. I think if I have one challenge with breeding crops, it's that I'm indecisive on what I want out of the pepper. So this particular pepper just kind of keeps evolving, which is fine too, I guess. I'm not looking to sell it or anything, but if I could get a consistent large bullhorn with a bit of spice to it, I think that's kind of like my perfect pepper. I always plan to save some seed on romaines, and then I chicken out. Or in reality, I'd kind of just end up needing that space where the romaines are going to seed for a different crop, and then I end up terminating it. But anyway, once again, no heat tolerant romaine breeding this year, as I always plan to do. But there's always next year, as they say. Sweet potatoes, I always save those, and that's an easy one. Like garlic, it doesn't cross pollinate, so no big challenge there in terms of saving the roots for next year to grow the slips from. Sunflowers are a cool one for me that I like to save every year. From what I don't have to battle for the finches for. For instance, in our Mulpa patch, there are these giant, like 12-foot tall sunflowers I'd like to save seed from for their shading abilities, not necessarily for their sunflower seeds. But I think it'd be cool to have some of those just to be able to plant around for extra natural shade. Tomatoes, of course, we will usually save some tomato seed from some heirlooms or of both cherries and slicers. Those are easy as long as you're not battling diseases with those crops at the time of harvest that could be transferred via seed. And honestly, that's kind of the bulk of what I'll be saving this year, besides some cilantro and basil later and maybe a couple other things that I just have forgotten about. Anyway, what are you all saving and excited about this season? Let us know, and otherwise, we're going to call it a Tuesday. Don't forget, No-Till Growers is now officially I always say officially, but I think it's officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. You can learn about how to do that in the show notes. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you are getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors, and if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Tell her Farmer Jesse sent you. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing. Also shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear.
In my back, $5 a day.
Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of August, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to, I didn't pull it up, not gonna lie. Oh, I'm doing my end of the week ones here. So we're going to need some new ones on Thursday and Friday, which will make sense tomorrow. Anyway, Kyle Richardville, Alex and Oliver, Bill King, Chris Yates, and Ian at Grindstone Farms. All right, so as you will remember, our young couple in southern Indiana had received a letter from a mysterious man in his estate telling them that they had inherited a new piece of land with a caveat. The estate would pay the taxes, but they had to farm it for 10 years. Again, they were not farmers, but they had a vague dream, like probably most people do, to farm one day. So they decided, why not give it a look? And, of course, after confirming the authenticity of the letter with their own lawyer, as you should do, pro tip. Anyway, they go to meet the lawyer, and they're at the land that's being offered to them. And the land is beautiful. This parcel of 10 acres is almost a perfect square, at least according to the plat. And has a large pond, a lovely little woodlot, some overgrown flat areas that could be gardens, and a large barn. It's a little rough, but they can see, the vision. Then they get to the house, and well, it's not really their own house. There are 4 other identical houses of 4 seemingly identical square plots. Then, sort of laid out with like a pavilion sort of area in the middle. So they're on their own separate land, but they're kind of all connected. Then out of one of the other houses steps another couple, slightly older maybe, who stare back at our couple confusedly. Why are they all meeting here like this? That is for tomorrow on What the What Farm. Ooh, I like that one. It's fun to say. What the What Farm. Anybody, you're welcome to use that. All right. Thanks for watching and or listening. We will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Life, it's damp and dark too.